red state hypocrisy, right-wing delusional nutbags, and Candace Owens gonna just expose a little bit of, I guess you could say, American society. The red states, look, there's a dictatorship in the United States of America, and it's an indiscriminate dictatorship, The political game of left, right, liberal, and conservative is outdated. It's totally outdated. And the people who play into it they just create they have the overall mindset that enables this dictatorship to go forward. And what happens is and what's going to happen is that, I'm not even going to say at this point, little by little, in big giant chunks, they both are going to lose rights, left, right, back and forth. There's a whole bunch of constructed arguments, and most people on both the liberal left and the conservative right would rather stay within these constructed arguments as opposed to really, really face the deeper reality of American society and what's really going on and happening right now. Yeah, but most people would rather stay within these constructed arguments. For example, critical race theory. What's the other big one? Critical race theory. Oh yeah, gay marriage and, like gay rights, all that stuff. Whatever the big giant constructed boogeyman is, like this whole thing with critical race theory, I don't even know if this is being seriously implemented. And critical race theory, the propaganda behind it, it began underneath the whole George Floyd protest. So you had a pretty much constructed social, racial polarization using the face of a very stereotypical looking Africanoid black man, in which you had a bunch of like this implementation of critical race theory, number one, is socially irrelevant. You're not going to in any shape or way change the mind. And I'm black, and I'm straight up telling you, I don't care. I don't care if you walked up to 100 black people, 1,000 black people, you would probably find 20, 30, maybe 40 or so who even know, like, if you walked up to a black person and say, what is CRT, and do you think it should be implemented? Okay, tell me what CRT is, and how much do you think it should be implemented? I'm willing to bet you that no less than 86 to 95% of black people that you ran into probably wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about. There was a group of black people in the 60s at some Ivy League college that implemented, or came up with this critical race theory. But it's really, people always have their ideals. They always have their ideas. It's just a matter of what entity is going to come along and implement it. Because if you observe, critical race theory only deals with black and white. I'm not going to say just with black and white, but let's just keep it honest. It's primarily structured around black and white. That's it. Mexicans, white people themselves, Europeans, Indians, some of everybody are subject to racism from another group. But because black-white racism, it's kind of like if you think about a bottle of alcohol. If it's 100 proof as compared to 80 proof, the 100 proof is stronger. Or if it's like Bacardi 151, that's 75% alcohol, 75.5% to be exact. It's kind of like black-white racism. It's like Bacardi 151, and everybody else's racism is like Malibu, or like a wine cooler. It's, a white guy killed a Mexican. How come critical race theory wasn't implemented back in Shenandoah, Pennsylvania? I think this was in 2004, 5, maybe 6, when a bunch of white guys beat up and kill teenagers, beat up and kill a Mexican man on Cinco de Mayo. No, it wasn't Cinco de Mayo. They beat up and killed a Mexican man who was dating a white female, and they acquitted the white guys on Cinco de Mayo. How come we didn't implement critical race theory then? But anyways, with Candace Owens, she is another one of the right-wing grifting babblers who moved to Tennessee a few months back. Now, she tweets. So I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try. That's if she didn't go back and erase it. And I'm going to expose something. Candace Owens, what ended up happening with Candace, our girl Candace, is that Candace Owens moved to Tennessee from, I guess, New York or California. I don't know. She was somewhere where allegedly it was all liberal. Okay. It was a bunch of old stinking liberals all over the place. So Candace Owens comes out and moves to Tennessee and says, I'm so happy that I'm in this conservative state. But two things you will learn here today. Mississippi has the exact same, Mississippi, which is conservative. When you think of Mississippi, you just think a hopelessly red conservative state. But it's bullshit. I'm currently living in Mississippi right now. I'm living kind of back and forth between Minneapolis and Mississippi. And I'll tell you something. What do you think about when you think about Minneapolis? You think about Ilhan Omar. In the state of Minnesota, I literally, as of right now, am in possession of a religious exemption card in which I do not have to take the coronavirus vaccine. That same card does not exist in Mississippi. Mississippi has a mandatory vaccination law. Look it up. Look it up yourself. Totally draconian. You don't have a choice. There's no choice. California is the only other state that has a law, a vaccine law, as draconian as Mississippi. You do not have a choice. If you send your child to a Mississippi school, you will be vaccinated. Period. You will be vaccinated or you can't go to school, and it has literally been that way for decades in Mississippi. But yet you have people, right-wing people down here, as you could imagine, who go back and forth about, oh, the liberals are going to do this and critical race theory, blah, 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 blah. I'm so glad I live down here. Get the fuck, like, shut the, oh my God. And then last week, Tennessee governor passed Executive Law 83. And there's a reason why conservatives aren't talking about it. You had a few months ago, Donald Trump, I think before he even left the White House, you know, you got all these anti-vax conservatives. Before Donald Trump left the White House, I think he got the coronavirus vaccine. Donald Trump pushes the coronavirus vaccine to a bunch of people that make video after video after video saying how this is biomedical dictatorship. Yet the man who they want back in the White House pushes the fact or the notion that he worked very hard with Fauci to get the vaccine out there. Yet they're of some type of delusional, crazy, occultic belief that Donald Trump is somehow going to protect them against biomedical dictatorship when he is 100% on board with it. Just like Tennessee governor passes this Executive Order 83, which is some of the most dictatorial garbage that you can downright read. It's filled with vague language. Well, we can put certain peoples in detention because of certain medical reasons until certain particular times, and then we might specifically and certainly, if we feel like it and get ready, let them out so they can, I don't know, live life, or we may have to force them to do what, you know, they don't want to do I mean, like, for real. And all of this can be done not by the police, not by a private organization. All of this is to be done by the military. A lot of people ask the question, hey, and I'm going to say this, you know that this whole CV-19 dictatorship is a dictatorship. Ask yourself the question, why are we, and I know they have so-called state-controlled media, but so do we. How come you hear of no coronavirus cases coming out of Russia? I'm going to tell you why. They already have a dictatorship. They don't have to hide it behind viruses and vaccines and the notion that we're going to implement socialism. So get a shot before you make everybody sick. Let's everybody guilt you into dictatorship. Well, what about everybody? Well, fuck everybody, because you and that everybody propaganda is just that. Okay. So how do you feel about that? Fuck you and fuck everybody. And see, what it is that it's a bunch of bullshit that is wrapped up behind this notion of caring and giving a damn about other people when it's not really about that. It just is, as I called it in a previous video, cowardly socialism that has to find a moral justification to hide behind. But in red state Tennessee, which no Democrat can even think about winning anything whatsoever, it's a completely red out state, but they and the biomedical dictatorship is really showing these right-wing nutbags who's really in control. Because you can run to a conservative state all that you want to. At the end of the day, you still going to get mandated that bullshit ass shot. Period. As a matter of fact, the most draconian thing that could potentially happen to you, it could literally happen to you in two conservative states that are right next to each other. So I don't want to hear that bullshit about you vote Republican, you're a conservative, and that somehow you oppose the Democrat, liberal, leftist wokeism. Democrat, liberal, leftist wokeism is just a bunch of propaganda. It's just a bunch of shit designed for you. It's kind of like, well, what are we going to make everybody terrified of? Well, the black man is going to commit a crime. Well, not everybody's scared of a black man committing a crime. Well, what about Muslims? Well, people aren't necessarily scared of Muslims, Islam, and terrorism no more. Well, what about Russia? They're going to nuke us. Well, the Soviet threat, we beat that drum for 50 damn years and nothing never happened really majorly between us and them. So we can't make everybody scared of that anymore. So what do we do next? Well, look, we just have to bring up the invisible enemy that can never be gotten rid of. Okay. It's the ultimate ace card, the ultimate joker. It's a disease and you're going to be scared of it, whether you want to be or not. And I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to make sure that that disease doesn't do anything to you. If I have to get a soldier to drag you into a camp and beat you to death, I would rather beat you to death than have that disease kill you. You will be laying down dead and beaten to death underneath a soldier because he was trying to protect you from a disease. You will be starved to death and worked in a concentration camp and beaten and tortured in a FEMA concentration camp because somebody is trying to protect you from a disease. You don't think at a certain point in time you probably are gonna want to just run away from the camp and say, for the love of God, just let the disease do whatever the hell. I mean, good God Almighty, I'm gonna be sick for 10 days. So what? Who cares? And as I told you, I had it. I had the coronavirus. I was sick for 3 or 4 days. So what? I had a little cough and a runny nose. Who gives a shit? It's a fucking cold. But anyway, before I start rambling too hard, let me go ahead and shut this video down. Red state hypocrisy, Candace Owens grifting and butt kissing certain demographic of people, you know, who like to have their butt kissed while their constitution is essentially being burned before their very eyes. Shadow ban. I'm out.